Well, good morning, or that's not even morning anymore. It's afternoon. We've kind of had a busy morning. Did lunch very, very quickly and came back to join you guys. Today we are going to talk about the Supplemental Annual Financial Report. Some of you have probably already started filling this out. Some of you maybe have looked at it and said, huh? So Lori's going to kind of walk you through through some of this, and if you have any questions, save them for the end. We will do a Q&A where we open it up, and you guys can ask questions or just introduce yourself to us. I am putting the link to the packet that goes along with today's presentation in the chat box so that you can go get that if you haven't already. We are recording this session, so by the end of this week, it should be up on our website along with all of the recordings that we've done really up till now, so that you can kind of go back and view where you need. And just talking there, I think that's it. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Lori, and she's going to talk to us about the Supplemental Annual Financial Report. Yay.
Okay, I'm going to swap her out, I think.
By the way, I like your cover sheet. There you go. Your title page.
My title page, because one of the designs that the PowerPoint actually gives you. I'm not very good at this, but you will notice a distinct difference as we go along between Ricky's PowerPoints and mine. But I've come a long way because I started out with just square boxes. So you got a little color in there, kind of appreciate that. But I don't have all the bells and whistles that she does. I may not ever have all the bells and whistles she does, but we'll see. Today we're going to talk about the Supplemental AFR. And you have a report that is due to your county auditor called the Supplemental Annual Financial Report, or Supplemental AFR. You may hear it referred to as a supplemental CAR, and that's kind of old language. Before we did the Annual Financial Report on Gateway, and each political subdivision did their own annual reports. We had county annual report, which was a CAR. You had city town annual report, which was a CTAR. All of those kind of went away with Gateway because we have one template that everybody uses, one format. And that's why it's a supplemental AFR. But if you hear supplemental CAR, you know it's referring to the same thing. And we're going to go over what the report is, why we need it, and how to complete it. Maybe. Okay. So statute requires each county to complete an annual financial report within 60 days after the end of the calendar year. The statute that requires the annual financial report I put on this slide, so you can go to it and see it in the Indiana Code. The report itself is completed on the Gateway website. We did an overview in December, and then we had a more in-depth view on uploads, but this is a separate section Ricky pointed out for the annual financial report. Only the auditor actually gets into the annual financial report, so it's not something you're ever going to get into on Gateway, but that's where it is. The annual financial report contains the financial information for your county. So the county auditor has the responsibility to prepare and enter the information on Gateway for the annual financial report. I'll move my box out of the way. Okay. Then the AFR, the annual financial report, is the basis of the financial information that we come in and audit each year. So it's a very important report. After we complete the audit, we provide an opinion on the financial information reported to whether it is materially correct or not. So there is an independent audit opinion that's part of the audit report, and it states whether or not the financial statements of the county as presented are materially correct, and that's a very important thing for the users of that financial report, which includes your citizens, as well as your regulatory agencies, bonding agencies like that. It's a very important report to them. If your county is looking to obtain financing, this opinion factors into the decision whether you even get the financing, and what kind of rating on your bonds determines how much you pay for that financing. We just can't explain enough how important this report is. And this report can also affect just your reputation with your citizens, how well the government is doing, the county government is doing its job. The same thing for a city or town or any other political subdivision that we would audit. If the financial statements are not materially correct, or we're not able to place an opinion on the financial statements due to the condition of financial records or lack of records, this is a strong negative impact for your county. And again, the AFR is very important. So what the auditor does when they enter the information for the annual financial report, or AFR, is they upload, or data enter, I think almost everyone uploads due to the volume of information, the financial information from their funds ledger. The software prepares reports for this. This includes the beginning balance, the receipts, the disbursements, and the ending balance for all of the funds on the county's funds ledger. So the general fund is the main operating fund of the county, probably where your office budget comes from. There are also special revenue funds, such as the Clerk's Record Perpetuation Fund, that you can use for the maintenance of your clerk records, your court records. And this is a fund, so certain fees are collected. They're set aside, instead of going to the general fund, they're set aside into the perpetuation fund to pay for those specific purposes, the preservation of records and the maintenance and upgrades to your record-keeping system, which is going to be your financial and your court system. It could be Odyssey, it could be CSI, whatever system that you're using. So some of the fees you collect and pay to the auditor are held in a remittance fund, and those are sent to the state twice a year. So that's another fund that's on the county's fund ledger. That's basically just a the remittance fund. It's just a holding fund that the auditor has until they remit those up to the auditor. But there are a lot of funds on a county's fund ledger. If you, I would certainly recommend, if you haven't already done so, to go to Gateway and look up your county's 2019 annual financial report and see what all is involved in that annual financial report. It's on the public site. It's something you can review just to get an overall idea of what's involved. So all of those funds are uploaded usually again through the software through reports. However, there are some funds that are not maintained on the county's fund ledger. These funds are held by various offices, and the auditor does not keep the records or have records for these funds. These funds are still considered public funds. They're held by the county, and they are required to be included in the annual financial report. In order for the annual financial report to be complete, it has to pick up all of the funds that are publicly held by the county. The only way the auditor has information to add these funds to the AFR is to gather that information from those offices. So the treasurer fills out a supplemental AFR. The clerk, you will fill out a supplemental AFR. The sheriff also fills out a supplemental AFR for the funds that they keep track of separate from the county funds. There are additional funds, county home, community corrections, tourism commission, that can also be required as well. Obviously, the only one you're responsible for are your clerk funds. So as we stated, the auditor will upload the funds ledger information onto Gateway, and that's usually an automated process that goes directly from the software, the financial software that the auditor uses, into a report that gets pulled into Gateway. That report will show the beginning balance, receipt, disbursement, and ending balance for each individual fund. Then for the supplemental funds, the auditor will have to manually add these funds based on the information gathered from each of those offices that's listed on their supplemental AFR. So that supplemental annual financial report is the form used to gather this and report this information from the other offices. The official responsible for the custody of those funds certifies the amounts reported on the supplemental annual financial report. The information reported on the supplemental AFR is very important to the AFR as a whole, and it should be accurate. The information should tie to the financial records in your office. This is not a throwaway. This is very important that you get this information correct, that you get it submitted to the auditor, and it gets uploaded properly. We do have a template that you can use to fill out the supplemental AFR if you don't already have a copy in your office. To find the template, you go to our SBOA webpage, and I put the web address here. Navigate then to the county's page under political subdivisions. When you're on the county's page, you're going to scroll down that page fairly far down until you get to the Gateway section. You're going to expand the menu under Annual Financial Report. It's the only time you're ever going to have to go into that probably. But under that Annual Financial Report, there are several links towards the bottom of that section. There is a link that gives you the Supplemental Annual Report. This will be downloaded. So when you click on it, it's going to actually download a copy to your computer. Okay? It's an Excel format, so it's fillable, and then you can print it out, sign it, and get it sent on to your county auditor. If you have any trouble locating this, let us know. If we have time, I'll try to pull it up and show you exactly where you can find it. This is what you're going to pull up. This is a screenshot of it, and again, it's in Excel. So you complete the information right on that form. The website also has instructions that you can open up. It doesn't download, but you can open them up, and it goes section by section and explains what needs to be included. We're going to go through some of those on the subsequent slides. So regardless of which office is completing the supplemental AFR, this is the form you use. So this form is used by the sheriff, by the treasurer, by the clerks, and by any other office that has to turn in information on supplemental forms. And again, you may hear it referred to as a supplemental card. If you hear that, you know you're talking about the supplemental AFR. So the instructions go over each section, what's required. So if you have any questions, you can pull up that instruction. And I've just kind of copied those on these slides. So the section 1 is your information. It's the name of your county, the office, because I said it's the same thing. You want to put clerk on there. So sheriff's going to want to put sheriff, et cetera, so that the auditor knows what office is completing this and what year you're filling it out. So if you're doing it this year, you're filling it out for 2020. You also need to complete the contact information for the person who completes the form. If it's not you, if you have someone in your office that's filling it out, they need to put their name and phone number and email address. So if there are any questions, your auditor's office knows who to contact to get clarification. In the next section, you're going to complete the information on the fund or funds that are maintained in your office. So the Clerk Trust Fund is the fund we're interested in. It is possible that some counties keep the child support in a separate accounting because it has a separate software, the ISET software, and that's okay. There's one trust fund, but if you separate it out between the trust fund and the child support, as long as you're clear on that, we're not going to take exception to that. You do not need to list each bank account. You're listing the fund here. So it's the trust fund that you're putting, not the bank it's located in, okay? If you combine the trust and the child support into one fund, then you're just going to have Clerk's Trust Fund and information on that fund together. If you separate it out, you're going to have two lines, Clerk's Trust Fund and then Clerk's Child Support Fund. Even if you have two bank accounts, let's say for a lot of counties that when you change software from one to another, you keep the old bank account open with the money that was collected under the old software, and you start a new bank account with the money you're collecting under the new software. So for a couple of years, maybe you've got both of them going. That's fine, but you still have one trust fund. You don't have two, even though they're located in two bank accounts. You have one trust fund. It's also possible you might have some money invested. Let's say you're court ordered to invest some money for a certain number of years for whoever the payee is. And if that's true, then you may have an investment. And again, that is part of the trust fund. It's just instead of being just in your regular bank account, it's put in a separate investment. Okay, we're going to go over an example of that. So I hope that kind of clarifies it a little. But once you've identified each fund, so either you're going to have the two, trust and child support, or you're going to have one, trust, if you put them together, then you need to put down the beginning and ending investment amount if you have investments. If you don't, then those are going to be zeros. If your investment matures during the year and your funds are put back into your regular checking account or whatever demand account you're using, then that becomes part of the cash transaction. So if you have a $10,000 CD and you cash it in, maybe pay it out, you might start your year might start out with the $10,000 and the investment at the end of the year is zero because you've cashed it out, okay? And the transaction is going to run through the cash portion of that. So next you need to post your beginning cash balance, and this is the money that's not invested. This again is part of your trust. It should agree with the prior year's ending balance, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The total receipts that you put into the trust fund for the year, the total disbursements that you have paid out of the trust fund, and the ending balance in the fund. If your child support is maintained separately, then you would complete that same information for the child support. If they're combined, then you just have the one line. Okay. Then you're going to print out this form. The clerk's going to review it, certify the information, sign the form that they've certified it, and then you can either scan it in and email it to your auditor or send a hard copy over, whatever your accounting procedure is. This form does not go to us. It only goes to your auditor. You should also keep a copy for yourself. I hope that goes without saying, but you should have a copy for yourself when we come into audit. Okay. So here's an example with all made up numbers. Sorry, you don't get to make up numbers. You have to use your actual numbers, but we get to make them up, which is kind of fun for us. So this is Happy County, which is right next door to Ricky's Pleasant County. In this example, we're showing that the trust fund and the child support are being shown separately. For the trust fund, there was a $10,000 investment that they had for the whole year. So the beginning investment and the ending investment was $10,000. That's how much was invested. Okay. And as I said, if we had cashed this in, it might have a beginning balance of $10,000 and an ending balance of $0 because we no longer hold the investment. The total amount, sorry, excuse me. So the total amount, so that you understand, the total amount in the trust fund in this example is the cash balance, the $3,072,840 plus the $10,000 investment. So it's really $3,082,840 because it's the investment plus the cash together. The cash is in a demand account, so it's in a checking account more than likely. And that ending balance, that those two together, that should tie to your bank reconcilement for your trust account. In this case, the child support account has beginning cash and ending cash, and that should tie up to your reconcilement for your ISETS account. As I said earlier, it's possible that the cash balance, what we have, the $3,072,840, is held in two different checking accounts. That's possible, but we don't show it by two different bank accounts. It's still one fund. It's the trust fund. So you're only showing the total amount in the fund, not what bank it's located in. You do show the investment separately from the demand accounts, but that's still on one line for the fund. We have looked at AFRs before where we see where they just, Star Bank or something like that. That should never be the name. It's the name of the fund. It is not the name of the account. So you're new to your office and you didn't complete last year's report. So where do you go to find the last year's ending balance to compare to this year's beginning balance? So the first thing, you can look for a file that your predecessor might have left, if you're lucky, that just has the documentation of how the copy of last year's report and their documentation with how they completed that information, where they got their numbers. If this is not available, you can look on Gateway. On the public side, I already said, you can go in and look at your county's AFR for last year. If we have time, I'll kind of walk you through that again. I think Ricky showed that in our overview. And look for what was posted for the clerk's funds. So I've included the address for the public side of Gateway. And again, you're not going to log in as an official. You're just going to go on the public side because you're going to be looking at the AFR, which you don't have access to as an official, but you have access to as the public version, as everybody does. So if you go in and choose the annual financial report, it'll bring up a whole series of different outputs you can look at. Choose the cash and investment report, and then your county. Okay, then when that pulls up, you're going to look for the clerk's trust fund and possibly the ISETS support, child support fund, depending on how it was reported last year, and find those ending balances, and then compare them to the beginning balances in your ledger. So this is a screen print of, I don't remember what county it was from. I just randomly pulled it. So this is the cash and investment report I was talking about. The added funds are conveniently always at the top because they have very small numbers. Most of your, for example, the clerk is 0, county general is 1,000. So all of your supplementals are usually at the top, which makes them easier to find. In this case, there was one line for the clerk. It just says clerk of the circuit court, but it's really the clerk's trust fund. Excuse me. And it shows the beginning balance, receipts, disbursements, and ending balance for 2019. And it's this number, the ending balance, that you're going to want to start with when you do your report for 2020. And when I said your beginning balance should tie to your previous year's report, it should also be the beginning balance on your financial records as well. If it's not, we're going to talk about that in a few slides, what to do in that case. And now you need to put in your receipts and your disbursements, and this should come from your funds ledger. Depending on your software, you might have a report that will show the beginning balance, receipts, disbursements, and ending balance for your trust account. In a manual environment, this would be your cash book and daily cash balance report. We talked about this in an earlier session. Again, that's a manual report. I think we talked about it during the reconcilement process. You need to work with your vendor to make sure that the report you generate from your software covers the entire year and all the receipts and disbursements from your trust account. And that's what you're looking for, a cash book and daily cash balance report. Do not use your bank statements to prepare the supplemental AFR. As we discussed in the reconcilement session, the bank statements are the bank's records. They're not yours. You need to use your financial reports. However, the ending balance on your supplemental AFR should tie back to the amount you reconciled to on your December bank statement. So you should be able to reconcile to the bank, but don't use the bank deposits in checks. You want to use what's in your financial reports. This is a copy, again, just of the cash book and daily balance report. Again, this is a manual report that summarizes all the amounts you're holding in the trust. And again, it's got beginning balance. And if you put, in your software, you would start with January 1st, so you would have your January 1st balance through December 31st balance. And it should have totals for each of these categories and then come down to a grand total. And it's these numbers down here that you want, and at the end of it should be at the end of your report. And again, this is the same report you should be reconciling to. Odyssey calls it a clerk's daily cash balance report. And I'm not sure what the others call it. I don't know if I've seen reports from the others, but they all should have something very similar to that. If it was run at the end of the year, it would show the total receipts and disbursements. Again, if your ISETS is kept separately, then they have a different software, so there would be a different report for that. Once the report is completed, it should be reviewed by a separate person. If you have someone else complete the report, you as the clerk should do the review before certifying. If you prepare the report, have one of your deputies review the report before you certify, just to look for any posting errors in that. In reviewing, make sure that the beginning balance ties to prior year's ending balance. Trace the receipts and disbursements reported to the financial reports from your financial software. Trace the ending balance ties to your bank reconcilement for December and is mathematically correct. That is, your beginning balance plus your receipts minus your disbursements equals your ending balance. Document the review with a date and signature and initials, and don't forget to keep a copy for yourself and send a copy to your county auditor. During an audit of the financial statements, we will be auditing the additional funds back to the source documents in the appropriate department. You will have to be able to support where the numbers in the report came from, so make sure you know where you got those numbers and have the supporting documents to show for audit. What do you do if you have issues in completing the supplemental AFR? So the first situation, the ending balance in the prior year's report does not appear correct and doesn't tie to your financial report. Again, if you go back to last year's report and it shows, Star Bank, and it's got, some amount in that doesn't tie to anything, that prior report was probably not right. It is possible that there were audit corrections to that report, and you can look at the audited financial report if it's available, depending on, there are still some counties that we haven't issued the audit reports for 2019 yet, even now, so you can't always get that, but you can always check on our website, pull on our audit reports, put in your county and the year that you're looking for, and see if there were some adjustments that were made. If you are lucky enough to have a file from your predecessor clerk, look and see how they determine the numbers. And what you really want to do is determine what is correct. If you don't match those numbers, why are they different? Was the last report incorrect, or were your numbers incorrect? And it is entirely possible that the prior year's report was incorrect. If you're pretty sure that the prior report had incorrect numbers, use the correct numbers on your supplemental AFR. Use the numbers you know are right. Keep any documentation on how you research the difference between last year's and this year's for audit. And it's going to, there may have to be a note disclosure or something depending on the amount, but that's what they're going to be looking for, but use the correct numbers. So what if the prior report has bank accounts and not funds, or investments and not funds? Again, complete your supplemental AFR with the correct funds, trust, possibly ISITs if it's separate. And this would be another good time to check the audit report if it's been issued, to see if the corrections were made to the AFR, so that you might be closer, you might be able to tie closer to what was in the audited financial report. If your ledger is not reconciled to the bank and investment statements, you need to complete the reconcilement as accurately and completely as possible. If you need assistance, please don't hesitate to call Ricky or I. Then you're going to complete that AFR, that supplemental AFR, with the best information that you have. And knowing that maybe there might be some errors in it until you get the final resolution done. But make sure that you do do your diligence to make sure that you've reconciled as completely as you can, and use the most accurate information that you can. Okay. I'm going to do questions, and I'm going to stop sharing. See if I can, not having ever done this before, see if I can share my No, it didn't.
No, you're sharing the website.
Am I sharing the website? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you wanted to do?
Great. That's what I wanted to do, because my computer's showing the end of my PowerPoint. Okay, so when I talked about the audit reports, and Ricky went over this, on the very home page for the SPOA, it says search audit reports. So if you click on that, it brings up a searchable database. So you can put in county for the unit type and your county name. We're going to pick on somebody that comes up quickly. So Adams, and we're looking for 2019 numbers. Adams hasn't been done yet, so that's probably not a good thing. Let's see, somebody that might be done. Okay, Clinton was done. So you can pull up the audit report, the financial audit report for 2020. Did 2 years? Anyway, that's confusing. It is harder. I will tell you, it is harder to find your clerk's report, because it isn't right at the top like it is in the AFR. It's usually, you're going to have to kind of read through all of the funds till you can find it. But it is, but you can look for it there if it's been, like I said, if it's been issued. If it hasn't, then you're not going to have that information. And I was going to show you, okay, political subdivisions and counties. You said you need to scroll down quite a ways, and you see this gateway section, and then you see annual financial report, or AFR. If you expand that, again, you got to scroll down. Supplemental annual report. If you click on that, it will download a link, and that will open up it'll show up if you're not. Well, no, it's not going to move. Okay. And that will pull up the annual financial report, and then you can complete it and save it to your desktop. Was there anything else I was going to show? I don't think so. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing now, maybe, so we can do questions.
Okay. I am going to give you control of your camera and your microphone so that you can ask any questions or just introduce yourself or any comments, you know. I just didn't have my deputy clerk and I did it yesterday.
Yay.
And then, yep. Anybody? Maybe try and fill it out and run into any kind of issues? No? It's perfect.
I guess we're all good.
That's great. Good to hear.
Of all the things you guys do, this is probably, you know, just a little, I mean, it's just a little thing. And it's really, as long as you've got the records, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it shouldn't take a lot of time to do. It's important. It's very important, but it shouldn't take a whole lot of time to do.
Thankfully, I came into a staff who's already done this several times, so that's a blessing.
That is. It really is.
Absolutely. Anybody else? No, they're going to be quiet. I think, I don't think I have it open anymore. I know that I'm working on the schedule of sessions for February. It will not be as jam-packed as January. We want to make sure and get the information to you guys in January as quickly as we could, but our main one's going to be on claims and receiving. So that's something kind of important for you to pay attention to when that date comes out. I just don't know what it is yet. So I'm waiting to confirm a couple dates. I will try and have that out next week. I will send a separate email to let you know. I'll attach it. I'll also have it on the website so that you can go back there and get it if you lose the email or whatever. Same things will go. Packets will go up the week before so that you have access to those. At the end of the week is when we submit all recordings. So tomorrow I'll submit those to get those uploaded. Any sessions that that we have done prior to this are up on the website. And this one should probably, he gets them up fairly quickly, so they will probably be up by Friday, unless something were to happen. But worst case, it would be the beginning of next week if something were to happen there. So that's all there. Yeah.
Are they going to be on Wednesday again next month?
I tried to keep them all the same so that you wouldn't have to be bouncing all over. I thought it would be more beneficial, so I think I kept clerks on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Just if I don't have any final things yet. If it was to switch, and I don't think clerks do, because we've got DCS coming.
Right, that's next Wednesday.
Yep.
And then we've got, who else is coming?
Tentatively, we had them both scheduled for we had clerk scheduled for Wednesday.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And so we just thought it'd be easier for that. So I know that Secretary of State, we could not coordinate something that would work with her schedule. She is extremely busy. So you have to try and get in there kind of early. And I have been working with them, and they really, really tried to find a date. And we were going back and forth, and it was just impossible. But she has graciously offered to do a video welcoming so that you guys could, see her and give you a few information. So we will have that available too, but it will probably be part of the claims and receiving one presentation just because it's probably going to be 15 to 20 minutes. So I don't want to dedicate a whole session to that. You can't ask questions or anything like that either. So be prepared for that one. I will tell you, sometimes these videos get a little, they kind of break up a little bit sometimes on here. So we'll play it, and then we'll also put it on our website after. So if it does break up on your end, you'll be able to go back and rewatch it. Okay, and get the whole thing. It sometimes has to do with my hotspot because I play it from home. My hotspot and then running the WebEx. Sometimes they like to argue, and there's some hesitation. So bear with us with that. Is there anything I'm missing? Lori, can you think of anything? And then I will say that February will end our newly elected sessions. You will roll into the regular trainings that will happen throughout the year. We are actually getting ready to kind of start planning those. So get with your Clerks Association to find out when the scheduled conference is for that, and kind of be on the lookout. We do kind of think we might throw a few sessions out there throughout the year, but again, we will reach out. We will let you know beforehand. It won't be anything like this. It would just be like, hey, we're going to do this one-off session about this topic. Okay, so it wouldn't be something you'd have to keep watching every week for. I think that's all I have. Unless you guys have any other questions, we can let you guys go for the afternoon, right? And do, other stuff.
Short one. That's right.
We like short and sweet. If you have any questions, reach out, call us, okay? Email us, whatever. We'll be more than happy to help you the best we can. Outside of that, I guess everybody have a wonderful afternoon. It is sunny out here, so hopefully it is with you guys too. All right.
It was when I left for lunch. But
was it cold?
It was very cold, but my office doesn't have a window. I have a door and 4 walls.
That's no fun.
Yeah. So, but it does look like it's pretty outside. I haven't been out there, but it looks like it's pretty. So enjoy, and we hope to see you guys next week.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye, everyone.